The luxury car rolled to a slow stop beside the narrow sidewalk, its engine humming softly like it was impatient with the world around it. Dust rose from the tires and settled back onto cracked pavement lined with old shops and street vendors. The car didn't belong there. Everyone could see that. A few heads turned, curious, cautious, already guessing the kind of person who had arrived. The man who stepped out looked exactly like the car suggested he would. His suit was tailored, his shoes spotless, his watch heavy with gold. He scanned the street with mild amusement, as if it were an exhibit rather than a place where people lived and worked. His eyes stopped on a small wooden stall pushed against a wall, stacked neatly with inexpensive chocolates wrapped in bright paper. Behind the stall stood a boy, thin, young, no more than 17. His shirt had been washed too many times, his shoes worn at the edges, but everything about his stall was clean. He adjusted the rows of chocolates carefully, straightening what was already straight, a habit born from long hours of waiting. The day had been slow. People passed, looked, and kept walking. The millionaire approached the stall, hands in his pockets, lips curved in a half-smile. He picked up one chocolate, turned it over, then set it back down as if it wasn't worth much thought. "How much?" he asked. "2 each, sir," the boy replied politely, his voice respectful, practiced. The man chuckled under his breath, then glanced around at the small group of onlookers who had gathered without realizing it. Street vendors, passers-by, a woman holding a child, all watching. "I'll tell you what," the man said, louder now. "Sell me those chocolates in German, and I'll pay you 100,000. The number hit the air like a spark. Murmurs followed immediately. Someone laughed. Someone else shook their head. Everyone understood what this was. A game. A joke. The boy blinked, unsure he had heard correctly. "In German?" he asked. "Yes," the man said, smiling wider. "German. Surely you speak it, don't you?" The boy felt heat rise to his face. His hands tightened at his sides. He knew this tone. He had heard it before. People pretending to be generous while enjoying the moment they could take something away. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. "I sell chocolates," he said quietly. "That's all." The millionaire shrugged, satisfied. "Then no deal." He laughed, turning slightly toward the crowd. 100,000, just for a few words. Such a shame. A few people laughed with him. Others looked away, uncomfortable. The boy stared down at the chocolates, the bright wrappers suddenly too loud, too exposed. For a moment, it seemed like that would be the end of it. The rich man amused, the poor boy humiliated, the street returning to normal. But something shifted. The boy inhaled slowly, deeply, as if steadying himself. He raised his head. His eyes, moments ago uncertain, were calm now. "Wait," he said. The millionaire paused, already halfway turned back to his car. He looked over his shoulder, surprised. "You said," the boy continued, his voice firm, "if I sell them in German." The laughter faded. The street grew still. The boy stepped forward slightly, standing straighter than before, as if something inside him had finally settled into place. The millionaire turned fully now, curiosity replacing amusement. A few people leaned in, sensing that the moment wasn't over yet. The boy rested his palms lightly on the edge of the wooden stall. When he spoke again, his voice was different. It was no longer hesitant or careful. It carried a calm confidence that cut through the noise of the street. "Dies Schokolade ist einfach," he began, his pronunciation clean and deliberate. "Aber sei ist ehrlich, sei, Word nicht in grossen Fabriken verkauft, sondern von Hand zu Hand, von Mensch zu Mensch." The first sentence stunned the crowd into silence. A man nearby frowned, trying to understand. Another raised his eyebrows. The millionaire's smile stiffened, his eyes narrowing. The boy continued, each word flowing naturally. He spoke about taste, about comfort, about how small pleasures matter most to people who work hard and expect little. His tone was respectful, almost professional, as if he were presenting a product in a high-end store rather than on a dusty street corner. "Man kauft nicht nur Schokolade," he said, meeting the millionaire's gaze. "Man kauft einen Moment der Ruhe. Einen Beweis, das auch einfach Dingwort haben." The air felt heavier now. No one laughed. Even the sounds of traffic seemed distant. The millionaire's confidence began to slip, replaced by something closer to disbelief. This wasn't memorized. This wasn't luck. This was real fluency. Enough. The man interrupted, his voice sharper than before. The boy paused immediately, respectful but unafraid. Of course, sir, he said, switching back to English with ease. But you asked me to sell. The switch itself landed like another blow. Where did you learn German? The millionaire asked, his tone no longer playful. The boy hesitated for just a moment. Images passed through his mind. His mother coming home late, tired, smelling of cleaning products. Him sitting on the floor outside closed classrooms, listening through doors while she worked. My mother cleaned offices, he said quietly. One of them was a language school. I listened while I waited for her. I didn't have money for lessons, but I had ears. A murmur spread through the crowd. The millionaire looked away briefly, jaw tight. He hadn't expected a story. He hadn't expected depth. He had expected embarrassment. And now, the man asked, "You sell chocolates?" "Yes," the boy replied. "During the day. I study at night." The millionaire reached into his jacket slowly. The movement lacked its earlier arrogance. He pulled out a thick stack of bills and counted them with visible reluctance. Each note slapped softly against the others, the sound echoing louder than it should have. He placed the money on the stall. 100,000, he said. As promised. The boy looked at the money but didn't reach for it right away. Instead, he selected a handful of chocolates, arranging them neatly and pushing them toward the man. "Here," he said, "for you." The millionaire hesitated, then took them. Their fingers brushed briefly, and the man flinched, as if that simple contact carried weight. As the boy finally picked up the money, the crowd slowly began to disperse, some shaking their heads, others smiling softly. The street returned to its rhythm, but something had changed, even if no one said it out loud. The boy packed up his stall when the sun dipped lower, his movements unhurried. The money rested safely in his bag, heavy but not overwhelming. As he walked away, he didn't look back. The millionaire remained by his car for a long moment, staring at the spot where the boy had stood. For the first time in years, his wealth felt lighter than his thoughts. The millionaire finally climbed into his car, but he didn't start the engine right away. He sat there, hands resting on the steering wheel, staring through the windshield without really seeing the street in front of him. The chocolates lay unopened on the passenger seat, their bright wrappers suddenly out of place in the quiet luxury of the interior. He exhaled slowly, a sound closer to frustration than calm, and for reasons he couldn't explain, he felt exposed. Memories surfaced uninvited. Boardrooms where he had spoken 3 languages just to prove he could. Dinners, where intelligence was measured by degrees and accents. Moments when he had laughed at people who reminded him of where he came from, people he had decided he was no longer like. He had built his life on winning, on control, on the comfort of knowing he always held the advantage. Yet a boy with a wooden stall had taken that from him in minutes. Outside, the boy walked down the street with steady steps, the strap of his bag cutting across his shoulder. The weight inside was real, but it didn't make him rush. He passed familiar faces, vendors who nodded at him, an old man who lifted a hand in quiet respect. None of them asked questions. They had seen enough. As he turned a corner, the noise of the main road faded. He thought of his mother, of how she would react when he told her what had happened. She would worry first, then smile, then remind him to be careful. She always did. He imagined placing the money on their small kitchen table, imagined her hands hovering over it as if afraid it might disappear. But more than the money, he carried something steadier inside him now. The certainty that what he had learned in silence mattered. That nights spent listening instead of sleeping had not been wasted. That dignity could exist even when no one else offered it to you. Back in the car, the millionaire finally opened one of the chocolates. He tasted it slowly. It was simple, too sweet, perhaps, nothing special, and yet his throat tightened unexpectedly. He wrapped the rest back up and placed them carefully in the glove compartment, as if they deserved protection. When he drove away, the street swallowed his car almost immediately, returning to its ordinary rhythm. No one pointed, no one clapped, there was no dramatic ending. Just a quiet shift, invisible but real. That night, in a small apartment, a mother listened as her son told his story. She said nothing at first. Then she pulled him into an embrace that erased the long days and longer nights. Outside, The city carried on, unaware that somewhere within it, respect had been earned, arrogance had been cracked, and two lives had moved, slightly, permanently, onto different paths.